Hi guys, I'm back again. You guys are gonna be so sick of seeing me. I'm gonna show you how I do my stuffing, and everybody loves their own version of stuffing. And again, I was shocked at how many people, somebody had put a post up about what's everybody's favorite stuffing recipe, and everybody's like stovetop stuffing. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, so if you love stovetop, more power to you. If that's what you grew up with, okay. That's, you know, again, I grew up with my grandmother making stuffing from scratch, and so I've elevated it and changed it throughout the years, and I kind of tweak it different ways, but this is one that I've done for the last few years, and I like this recipe, so I kind of stick with it. Basically, I have two kinds of bread in this that I've toasted off. So I have a challah bread, which is spelled C-H-A-L-L-A, I think it's H? Yeah, A-H, which is an egg bread. And so it's a little sweet, and it's really like, it's fluffy, and it's a beautiful bread. It's like brioche. And then the other is my homemade sourdough. And I've cubed them and toasted them off, and you want them really like crunchy, like a crouton. I think that's kind of the key, is to get them really toasty to where they seem like they are like overly done. Because then the texture is really nice inside. I've got kids screaming and everybody's home, so I'll have to pardon that. But it just really adds a nice texture. So sourdough gives you kind of that tangy, and it's artisan sourdough, so it's chewy. And then the challah bread is just velvety and soft, and it's a little sweet. So that, to me, works. You can do cornbread, you can mix, but I always do a couple different breads. So I have a pan going, and I've got just a little bit of olive oil in there. To this, I'm going to add 5 tablespoons of butter, okay? And this is unsalted butter. I want to control the salt. So I'm just going to melt this down, and then I'm going to add 1 onion, about a cup's worth of celery, and about 1 small shallot. And again, if you don't like celery and you don't like onion, it's like you have to have these in stuffing. This is just, you have to. I'm demanding it. Okay, the celery does add something. If you don't like the texture, just cut it really small. You're not gonna get that stringy texture. And you can also use a vegetable peeler on celery. If it really freaks you out, you can actually take that layer off before you cut it. So if you want to go to that extra step, maybe that's a way to kind of make it better for you. So I'm going to go ahead and cook these off, and a little bit of oil just to coat the pan, 5 tablespoons of butter, about 1 medium-sized onion chopped very small, about a half a cup to a cup of celery, and then 1 small shallot. Okay. So that's all we're putting in there. I'm going to put just a little bit of salt and pepper. I like to season as I go. It's unsalted butter, so maybe a half a teaspoon of salt and just some fresh cracked pepper. Very simple. In this dish, if you follow my cooking, I usually use fresh herbs, and I'm not going to use fresh herbs in the stuffing. I've done it both ways, and I think the dried ones just taste better in here. And I like a really strong sage flavor, and I add a ton of the rubbed sage in my stuffing. So if you like fresh, you could do fresh, but I think you also need to add the addition of the dried. I think it just makes a difference, just by good quality. If it's good quality, it's going to taste good. You know what I mean? Make sure it's fresh. If it's over 6 months, toss it. It's old. It doesn't work well. Okay, so I've got this on a medium heat. To this, I'm going to be adding more cremini mushrooms. If you don't like mushrooms, you could omit those, but I like the taste of the mushrooms in it. It adds kind of a meaty texture, if you will. So I've got about a cup or so, maybe a cup and a half of cut up mushrooms, and I've got all my vegetables in here. I've got a shallot, an onion, some celery, and some butter, and then my mushrooms, okay? Lightly seasoned with salt and pepper. To this is my tried and true Jimmy Dean sage sausage. There's something about it. I love bacon. I'm all about bacon. I've done bacon, and I've done pancetta, and I've done all kinds of different meats. Sausage, I'm not even a sausage person, but this sausage just really works well with the stuffing. So I highly suggest it. To this, I'm also going to add some dried cherries. These are dried big cherries. They're unsweetened. There's nothing added to them. I love these cherries. It's kind of a sour sweet, so I love that tangy cherry. I toasted off some raw pecans. just toasted them up in the skillet, and then 2 eggs and turkey stock. So it's really simple. Again, I'm trying to give you guys ideas on how to do things that really are not going to be harder for you to do. But just, you know, people be like, dang, you did a good job this year. If you're bringing the stuffing, if you're bringing the sweet potatoes, whatever you're doing. I made amazing sweet potatoes when I had Corner Butcher on. So if you go to my Foodie Princess YouTube, I did a salted maple caramel sweet potato with a spicy, spicy pecan, a salty sweet type pecan on it, and they're amazing. So you're not going to boil your sweet potatoes, you're going to roast them in the oven, and so they get caramelized, they get tender, and you're going to peel them, quarter them, put them on a baking sheet with a little bit of canola oil. You don't want to use olive oil on them, you just use like a canola oil, and bake them in the oven. And then you're going to make a salted caramel with brown sugar, butter, vanilla extract. You could add bourbon, you could add honey jack if you wanted to. You could really tweak that if you want to. But you're basically making a caramel out of brown sugar, butter, vanilla extract, or whatever other extract you want to add, and maple syrup. And so once it gets thick, you're going to add a little heavy cream to that, and you're making like a sauce. And you're just going to pour that sauce over your oven roasted sweet potatoes that you cubed and roasted off, that are slightly salted, just very lightly, very, very light. And then you're going to take that spicy, and I get them at Trader Joe's. You can make them yourself with cayenne and a little brown sugar and butter, but you're going to make that spicy pecan that has a little heat on the back end, and it's a little sweet, and you're going to put that on top, crush them up a little bit, put that on top, and put flake salt, like a good flaky salt, not I can't even say it. You don't want that. You want like a flaky salt on there. And I'm telling you, they're sweet, they're salty, there's that back heat, there's that maple syrup. They're amazing. No marshmallows, none of that. Ugh, crap. Too sweet for me. You know what I mean? It's just so sickeningly sweet, and so, it's so processed. So again, that's on my Foodie Princess YouTube, and they're epic. I will say, I kind of made them up when John was here. We were doing that video. I had them. I'm like, I want to do something different, and I just kind of made it up, and they were like great. So they're on there. Again, if you have questions, Foodie Princess YouTube. On that video, I show you how to do your turkey, compound butter, how to spatchcock your turkey, how to prepare a regular turkey if you don't want to spatchcock, how to make your chicken or turkey stock, how to make turkey noodle soup. There's so much on there for Thanksgiving, plus Veronica Cortez's her pie or pumpkin pie recipe, her pie crust, which is amazing. We have boozy whipped cream for tomorrow, how to make like really yummy alcohol-infused whipped creams for your pumpkin pie tomorrow. So go on the Foodie Princess YouTube and subscribe. And then that way you know whenever I upload something, it's on there, okay? So we're doing a stuffing. It's my sourdough. It's a long sourdough, sage sausage, Bing cherry, pecan stuffing, okay? You could use cornbread. It would be great. Now that those vegetables are rendering down, I'm going to add my Jimmadine sage sausage. And again, it's not regular sausage, it's the sage one. Makes all the difference, guys. It really does. And of course you can add sage to a regular one and be fine, but tried and true, old school. It's what I've been using for 20 years. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and brown this sausage up in here with my mushroom, my shallot, my celery, and my onion. And all these flavors are just gonna come together. Okay, really good. And then to this, once it's all rendered down, we're gonna add our bread. So if you don't have homemade bread, and believe me, this is the first year that I've made my own sourdough, so just find, if you like sourdough and you wanna make this recipe, just find a rustic type sourdough bread. Something, that's not like sliced, that's like sandwich bread. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want it to be like real sandwichy. You want it to be that rustic, so it's kind of crunchy and it has that real like to the tooth kind of bite to it. I think that makes the texture of your stuffing so much nicer. There's nothing worse than mushy, like stuffing. I don't know, it's just kind of unappetizing to me. So I want like it to have good texture to it, you know, not to be too mushy, not to be too dry. There's like that perfect in the middle combination. I add a pecan to this because again, it adds another texture, another element of flavor. If you don't like nuts, don't add it. You could add chestnuts, you could do whatever you want. I mean, the whole idea is for me to give you ideas and for you to look at that and say, oh, well, I don't like pecans, but I like walnuts or whatever. Like totally cater it to what you like. If you don't like cherries or you don't have them on hand and you don't want to go back to the store, use like craisins or dried cranberries or whatever you want to do. I think it's just the element of something sweet and a little tart that you're looking for. Apples, I've done apples in this before. I've cut up, you just do like a Fuji apple or whatever you have on hand. Cut it up and saute it in here too. That would add that element of sweet. If you want to do that, that would work. I'm trying to think what else you could use. Probably even use like dates, like, you know, or figs, or there's just, sky's the limit, you guys. Just flavors, it's all about balance. I think each dish that you're trying to balance, you want some acid, you want it to be a little salty, you want something, maybe a little back heat in there. It's all those elements that come together when you're eating it. You know, I'm always looking for like an evolution of flavor when I'm eating something, and so my recipes hopefully bring that to the table. And then of course when I'm judging professionally, when I'm judging a restaurant as a food critic, I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that you bite it and you're like, wow, what's going on here? And it just keeps changing and you keep tasting different flavors. That's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about an evolution of flavor. You just want to kind of balance all those taste buds so that your guests or you or whoever, when you're eating your food or when you're dining out, that you're tasting all those different elements that make you go, wow, what's going on here? Not just like one note, you know what I mean? And that's kind of, stovetop just feels like one note. Now you could doctor up some stovetop with this. You could add that in here if that's what you were planning on doing. You could take the sausage and all this stuff and just doctor it up, and that would be fine too. If that's what you've already purchased and you've got it going on, you can definitely doctor that up. I'm all about that too. Okay, just about another minute or so. I'm just gonna add a little bit more cracked pepper to this because I like it. If you don't, it's okay. All right, and I'm gonna start adding in some herbs. So I'm gonna do about a teaspoon of French thyme. I'm gonna do like a lot of rub sage. I don't measure, but I'm gonna do like 3 teaspoons of rub sage. And I have some fresh rosemary in my garden because I don't have dried. Let me see I have this poultry seasoning. I'm seeing what's in this. So this has rosemary in it. I'll use a little bit of this just to, let me smell. Oh, it smells great. I'll use a little bit of this. I'm looking for that really sage forward flavor. That's what I'm looking for. Why they pack that sucker in there? I'll probably end up adding more. I really like that flavor. To me, oh, this smells like Thanksgiving right now, you guys. That sage flavor, that's what gives you that smell. Oh my gosh, smells so good. And I can kind of tell by smelling it if it needs more, and it does. Like I can tell. So I'm at like 4 tablespoons worth at this point. It's a lot. Okay, so it's all cooked down. Now what I want to do is I want to start adding in my bread. And I've got a lot here. I don't know if I'm going to use it all. But I'm going to start with my sourdough. Turn this down, just on low. Because at this point we're just incorporating everything. We're done cooking it. So I've got my sourdough and my challah. And again, if you're just tuning in, it's a rustic sourdough that I've made. And challah is an egg bread. It's usually braided, and it's like brioche. It's like a really, really rich bread. It's so good. I mean, I was cutting it up and I was like taking bites of it. It would make like the best French toast. It's a delicious bread. It really is. Just slather some butter on it and it's good to go. All right, I think this was good. I can always add more if I need it. To this, I'm gonna start adding my chicken stock. This is gonna have 2 eggs in it as well. And then my cherries are gonna reconstitute because they're dried. They're not dried, they're preserved. So, they're so good. Dried green cherries. And they're tart. So, again, this is just a taste. You know, I want to get the balance. These kind of cut the richness of the sausage. So, I've got like a half a cup in there. I'm gonna start adding some stock. I've got turkey stock. You can use chicken stock. You know, whatever you want to do. I've got it on low. I'm not really cooking it at this point, but I want to just moisten everything. And I always have extra of this because you're going to make this today. If you are, you may want to add more stock tomorrow. If it seems too dry, just get your stock out and add some more stock. It's really simple. Okay, so I'm just mixing this up. To this, I'm going to add my toasted pecans. I went ahead and toasted them up just about maybe a quarter of a cup. And again, if you don't like pecans, you don't have to add them in. I just like the flavor of them. To me, it's like a fall dish, but you can do whatever you like. If something doesn't sound good to you, take it out. This smells like heaven. Absolutely like heaven. So I'm just trying to incorporate all of my flavors, okay? And then I'm adding stock as needed. At the very end, I'm going to add 2 beaten eggs, and the eggs are a binder. You want to beat them separately and pour them in. It just kind of helps hold everything together, and it makes it more like a casserole, if you will. So like, I've done it for years without the egg. My grandmother never used the egg, and so I grew up not using the egg, but I like the addition of the egg to it. I think it adds another level of flavor, and it just kind of pulls it all together, if you will. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like a savory bread pudding, if you will. So I like it, but again, if you didn't grow up doing that, you don't have to add the egg. It's not going to be horrible without it, but I think it just tastes better. This is looking great. And of course, once it's all incorporated, before you add the egg, you can taste it to season it. So I'll do that in a minute. I just want to make sure this is all getting incorporated. I still hear crunch, and I don't want it to be super crunchy, but that's why I add the stock in slowly, because nothing worse than having like soupy, you know, you've added too much. You know, you can always add more, but you can't take it away. All right. This smells so good, you guys. I wish you had smell-o-vision here. And I've got my mushrooms, my cherries, my shallot, my celery, onion, cremini mushrooms, the dried cherries, the pecan, the sage sausage, sourdough, and challah. I've used croissants, I've used brioche, I've used, over the years, so many different combinations of bread. And again, just think about the flavors. Cornbread is great too. Just make sure you toast it off really well. You know, you don't want it mushy. Cornbread, a lot of times people make it and it just sort of disintegrates into mush, and you have like a polenta grits kind of thing going on. And I like breads that really hold up, but that's just me personally. Everybody's different. Okay, this is looking good. Still a little crunchy. It takes a while to reconstitute, you know. It's gonna steam. I'm gonna cook this in a covered baked, like a stoneware dish covered, and then at the end I'll take the lid off once my bird is done, and let it get crispy on top, because everybody loves those crispy bits. But it's gonna kind of steam a little bit in there, so it will soften up more when you cook it. And then of course, if you're making it today and then you're gonna be cooking it tomorrow, open it up in the morning and see if it needs more liquid, and then add more stock if you need to, okay? All right, I'm just gonna take a small taste just to see if the flavors are all there. So crunchy. It tastes great. I still feel like it needs more sage. So I'm gonna go ahead and add, this is so packed in here. I'm gonna add more. I just like it. I'm gonna add some more pepper. And I'm going to add just a little bit of salt, because I really haven't salted much in here, and it needs just a little bit, maybe another teaspoon or so. And then I'm going to taste it again. All right, let's see. This smells, my gosh. Can we just make Thanksgiving today? All right, I'm going to get a fresh spoon. No double dipping, unless nobody's watching. That is spot on. Wow, that is so good. Once you've adjusted the seasoning, now you're adding in your eggs. Why? Nobody wants to have diarrhea from salmonella poisoning on Thanksgiving. Speaking of which, you guys hopefully have been posting about the E. coli in the romaine lettuce. Also, there's a big salmonella outbreak in turkey. So be really careful handling your turkeys tomorrow. Make sure everything is out of your sink. Rinse your bird off, clean it all off in the sink. Put your roasting pan right next to it. Make sure dry it off. Use paper towels. Do not use any hand towels tomorrow, okay? This is really serious. Get it in your roasting pan. Whatever you're making, if you're doing a compound butter, make sure everything's done ahead of time and it's just there for you. Even the oil you're going to use, because your hands are going to be dirty and you're going to be picking things up. So be careful. Try and have everything over there. Maybe put it in a small little bowl so that whatever you're using, then you can then put it in the sink and be done with it, okay? It's very serious. I mean, it's a very serious illness and you don't want people to get sick on your food. When you're done and the turkey is completely prepared and you put it in the oven, you need to sanitize your sink. Seriously, guys. Wipe everything down, again, using paper towels so that you can throw them away or Clorox wipes. Sanitize your sink, get everything clean, wipe the handle, get everything clean. You don't want cross-contamination. That's just, it's scary. Oh, I got a shell in here. It's, I gotta get my shell. I wasn't paying attention. It's hard to get them out. It's really scary with all this contamination going on. You don't want people to get sick. So make sure you cook your bird to the right temperature. Use a thermometer so you're sure. And you should be good to go. And don't use the romaine lettuce. If you had salad plan, don't do that. Okay, so the last thing I'm doing is I'm putting my 2 beaten eggs in there. And this is ready to go in my casserole dish. And it can sit overnight until I decide to pop it in the oven. It only takes about 30 to 45 minutes to bake this. So it's one of those things that if you don't have room in your oven, you can go ahead and cook your turkey. Your turkey should rest for about a half an hour anyway. So when you take your turkey out, you could pop in your stuffing. So it's one of the things with timing that's really important. So this is ready to be put into my baking dish. I've buttered it up. Is it hot? Not too much. And I'm just going to spoon it in here and put the covered lid on it and bake it, okay? If you guys have any questions, drop them below. I'm going to try and go back in like the next hour or so and read through the different videos I've done today to answer your questions so that if you guys are going to the grocery store today and you have questions about things you need, I can answer that for you before it's tomorrow, okay? So I'm going to do a corn souffle, and I'm going to do rolls. I'm trying to think what else I'm going to do. I'll prep my turkey in the morning, so I'll probably put the video on. Whether you want to watch or not is fine. I'm just going to try and keep things going as I'm doing them. I'm going to make a sugar-free pumpkin pie for my dad. He's diabetic, so I'm going to use Veronica Cortez's recipe, which is on my Foodie Princess YouTube. But I'm going to swap out Swerve, which is a erythritol-based sugar substitute. So if you're keto or you're diabetic, it's a great substitution for the pie recipe. So it'll still have the cream in it. It's still going to have all the same ingredients. I'm just swapping out the sugar for Swerve, and it comes in powdered sugar, comes in like a brown type sugar, and it comes in granulated. So whatever you need to do, you can get that. You can get it on Amazon. It's kind of late, last minute for Amazon, but you can get it at Sprouts or some of your nicer health food type stores. It's called Swerve. And it doesn't have a weird aftertaste, and it doesn't have the chemicals in it. So that I like that if you're doing a keto or a low carb diet or you're diabetic, that's the way to go. So I'll be making things throughout the day, today and tomorrow. I'll try and pop on and at least tell you what I'm doing, but there's a lot on my Foodie Princess YouTube that's already there that you can watch the videos. And of course, if you have a question, just put it in the comments and I'll try and get back to you. But it's about Thanksgiving, it's about family, it's about food, it's about memories. And comfort food just has to go hand in hand with that. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your day and be careful on the roads because everybody's like going crazy for turkeys. Okay? Have a good one.